Right, so Suella Braverman is now apparently blaming jet travel and smartphones for the so-called migrant crisis. So can we expect an extension of Rishi Sunak's Stop the Boats pledge to now include Stop the Jets? But then I thought to myself, no, that'd be mad. He'd never give them up himself. But then hypocrisy isn't something that appears to ever trouble him very much. So what on earth is Braverman on about? Is this just the latest crazed rantings of a mad woman obsessed with her culture war against people coming here? Is she on a look over there, more of them are coming kick as she continues to fail to get to grips with the backlog in asylum cases? But equally, how are smartphones and private jets implicated anyway? These people come by small boat for a reason. If they could come by jet, I dare say they'd prefer it. She's off her rocker on the face of this. Not especially news there, but let's see if we can't fathom out the method to her madness here. Right, so jet travel and smartphones to blame for the migrant crisis. But actually, that's not even the whole story here, as Braverman is using this as an excuse to attack our human rights again with it, by taking a swipe at the European Convention on Human Rights, the ECHR, because she hates it. Because apparently the rules that have governed us in order to prevent human rights abuses since World War II are now unfit for purpose due to the age of smartphones and jet travel that we now live in. Weirdly, none of the articles in the Human Rights Convention require mention of smartphones and jet travel. They also don't mention other things like cheese or cars or Evian spring water, for example, either, and that's because they don't have to. They're more basic and fundamental than that. They are underpinnings of all of our other laws that do govern things like cheese and cars and Evian spring water, as well as jet travel and smartphones. So this comment makes about as much sense as throwing your sofa away because you stubbed your toe on it. She's off to the US to sell her snake oil over there on global migration and the damage it is doing to all of us, which is blatant nonsense, not least because if, for example, global migration got banned 50 years ago, she wouldn't exist herself, given that her own parents came here from Mauritius and Kenya. But that's never stopped her before, has it? And it certainly won't stop her now. But before she left, she happened to say, illegal migration and the unprecedented mass movement of people across the globe is placing unsustainable pressures on America, the UK and Europe. We must come together and ask whether the international conventions and legal frameworks designed 50 plus years ago are fit for purpose in an age of jet travel and smartphones. I'm going to Washington to discuss this crisis with our American counterparts. If we fail to meet these challenges, then our political institutions risk losing their democratic legitimacy. Fundamentally, the ECHR prevents Braverman from doing all the awful things she really wants to do, that she thinks she has widespread support for, when actually she really doesn't. Even members of her own party are utterly opposed to the ditching of the ECHR, let alone other parties, let alone much of this country, at least the ones not brainwashed by mainstream tax-avoiding media barons and the rancid publications they purvey. Those of us with an ounce of common sense and common decency know they protect our rights at work as well, and our rights to life, our rights to marriage, and all of the rest of it. And Braverman, wanting to make it all about asylum seekers and migrations and wailing about not being able to deport people fleeing war zones to a potential new war zone in Rwanda, with conflict erupting on two of its borders now with the DRC and Burundi, notwithstanding her belief it is a safe third country, especially not having anything to do with her own business interests there, her own charity training lawyers there, just as a for instance, because I am a cynical sort, and since when did a Tory ever do anything that didn't end up in their own self-interest? Of course, another angle for ramping up the rhetoric right now is a Tory conference is just around the corner, and Braverman still harbours an interest in becoming Tory leader when Sunak inevitably falls. She's setting out her stall. She's blaming the ECHR for a lot of what she can't do. She'd happily have a sat alongside Russia and Belarus as the only countries outside of the ECHR, another pariah state on the global landscape, on the borders of Europe. Lord knows we know the Tories love taking Russian money and having oligarch donors, all whilst being on Ukraine's side in the war, you understand. But who knew they really harboured secret plans to emulate Putin's style of government as well, by doing away with all of our human rights? Well, jet travel and smartphones are apparently ushering that in. Who knew? You know, I always thought the whole point of those articles in the Human Rights Convention were the world collectively looking at the atrocities committed during World War II and saying never again to them. But Braverman is pretty much saying she preferred the old days. But by blaming modern technology, it's almost clever, I'd say, if it wasn't so deranged with it. Braverman is arguing through the examples of today's tech that frameworks to protect us, drawn up over 70 years ago, are no longer fit for purpose, yet misses the point that they were drawn up intentionally to pass the test of time. They are simplistic, basic tenets for how people should at least be treated, the rights we should all at least be entitled to. To seek to undo that It's frankly unthinkable. Yet not only could it happen if the Tory party are insane enough to ever make her their leader, but someone as far right as Suella Braverman would actually seek to undo things such as the right to life. She makes it all about migrants, but those rights protect us all too, and you can't pick and choose who such rights apply to. It's either all of us or none of us, and you know full well she'd choose the latter. You've only got her track record to look at to see the truth of that. Detention centres overflowing, kids going missing from them. We don't need to inspect immigration centres. Who cares if there are safeguarding issues there? Hotels are too good for them. Let's stick them on disease-ridden barges that we're renting yet also had to pay to do up. Let's overfill them past capacity whilst we're at it. That immigration centre's too child-friendly. Paint over those murals at once. Protect our armed police. They shouldn't end up in the dock for shooting people, especially if they might have been an unarmed black man like Chris Kaba. Who cares if they might be innocent? The list goes on. You want to put her in charge of abolishing our human rights and rewriting them? People will be getting in small boats again, but to leave here and head to France. Suella Braverman is a boil of dim-witted hate. Hate for anyone she sees as beneath her, easily one of the most demonstrably dangerous politicians we have. The ECHR exists to keep dangerous fascists from ever having too much power ever again, and those who choose to leave it should not be the sort of nations anyone wishes to deal with. Are we against Putin types or not? Make your mind up, Tories. Braverman is that sort of politician, though. She is hard right. She is fascistic. The removal of people forcibly to Rwanda is fascistic. That's why she's been stopped time and again from doing it by the ECHR. She dreams of those deportations. She should keep dreaming, and for God's sake, let's see her voted out at the next election and be done with her. Thanks for watching. I hope you found the video useful. Please like, share and subscribe if you did. More content out daily. And do have your say on this story in the comments below too, and be part of the conversation on this. Meanwhile, here's a video recommendation where although Braverman is shouting about protecting our police after one of them got charged with murder for shooting an unarmed black man, it was only last month she was demanding they work even harder. So are you on their side or not? I think she's only on her own side myself, her own selfish desires and ambitions, but hey, that's me, and I'm a rotten lefty. So by all means, if you think I'm wrong, leave a comment about it, and I'll hopefully see you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.